What is up, guys? Welcome back to Rip City Rundown. And yeah, welcome back to the podcast. This is the first podcast after the 2022 NBA draft and the first podcast after the huge trade earlier this week with us acquiring Jerami Grant. We did a little initial reaction video to that. This will be way more in depth. And what do you want to talk about first? I'm joined with just me and Cole today.
Yeah, it's just us two. Don't have West. I think the first thing we'll talk about, just because it's obviously the most, or should we go in recency, or should we go to chronological order? Because, Jerami Grant did kind of get the ball rolling for the Blazer news.
Let's go in chronological order. Let's start with the Jerami Grant trade.
All right, so Jerami Grant trade, obviously we made our quick reaction. It was actually just me and West that did that. But, it was a great value. It's not, it's value-wise, you could argue it's a steal. We are getting a guy that has been an all-star before. He averaged 19 points or something like that in his all-star season. He is one of the better defenders in the league, especially on the ball. And we only gave up a 2025 Milwaukee Bucks pick, which in reality has no value to us at all.
Yeah, he's a two-way player, and that's what we got to look for, especially with all these championship teams. Every team having an elite wing that can play offense and defense. 6'8", 28 years old. If you're a Detroit Pistons fan, how do you feel about this trade? Put yourself in their shoes.
I think this is one of those trades where I think both teams are kind of coming out of this feeling okay and feeling like they won the trade. More so on the Blazers side, but for the Pistons, it was initially I was like, the Pistons got fleeced. But now after hearing what their thought process was, they obviously cleared a bunch of cap space to possibly go after a guy like DeAndre Ayton. Everyone is saying that's the guy they're going after. But they also used that Bucks pick and coupled it with another pick, I think, to trade for Jalen Duran, to get another lottery pick in the first round. So they kind of did their moves smartly. But whatever they did with the pick doesn't matter to the Blazers. For the Blazers, they got a very valuable player for not a valuable pick. So
it's hard to gauge how the Pistons will be, but how would you compare Jerami Grant to Covington? Because you can sort of look at these two as both. I guess you can say they're both two-way players, and obviously we sucked with Roke on our team, but they both play the four. You can put them at the three.
I personally think that Jerami Grant probably will bring a little more value than Rocco. He's younger than Rocco. He's quicker. He's a better on-ball defender. That is the big thing when it comes to Jerami Grant. Rocco was one of the better defenders the Blazers have ever had, or in the Damian Lillard era. But he specialized especially in off-ball defense and help defense, and that is a really good player to have when you have other defensive players on the team.
Yeah, 100% agree.
A guy like Rudy Gobert for the Jazz. Rudy Gobert is a really, really good defender. He is one of the best, just all-around defenders. He's good one-on-one, but he's really good in help. But the Jazz tend to obviously get destroyed in the playoffs a lot because their guards are some of the worst defenders in the league. Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley can't stop a freaking sixth grader at this point. So Rudy Gobert has to go help defense, which ends up leaving those guys like the Terrence Manns for the Clippers wide open in the corner and having 40-point games in the playoffs even though they're nobodies because he is a really good help defender. That being said, that's a complete different tangent, but Jerami Grant is better on ball. He's a better offensive player than Rocco.
That is true. And Rocco's not getting 20 a night. Sorry.
First-round picks for Rocco, one lottery-protected Bucks pick for Jerami Grant. And when you compare that, Jerami Grant is much better.
Yep, I'm definitely excited. Like you said, younger, better offense, better defense. That's all you can really ask. I think that's all we got for Jerami Grant.
I want to go into one more thing when it comes to Jerami Grant. A lot of people were like, if Jerami Grant's the only guy we get in the offseason, current good player, not draft-wise, that would be kind of an hell of an offseason. I think that would be the case, but everyone was expecting Jerami Grant to get traded for the 7th pick.
All I know is this was a very successful week, and there will most likely be moves that come when we get to free agency. So this is just a perfect week as a Blazer fan, I think.
I think so too, and we'll get into more about the future and what Joe Cronin said after we go over a couple more things that happened. But we'll move on to the draft, though, because honestly, it was not as crazy as I thought it was going to be. There was literally like the biggest name to get traded was Kemba Walker, and
Yep.
we were expecting the Blazers to probably trade their pick or the Kings to trade their pick, but the Blazers keep their pick and draft Shaedon Sharp, who I personally am a huge fan of.
Yep. I was debating whether, or thinking in my head whether Mathurin or Sharp would be available for us. Both of them, or excuse me, Pacers ended up taking Mathurin, so we got Sharp at the seventh pick. Yeah, young player, obviously, 19 years old, 6'6". Um, yeah, it just shows how we're not really going after any guards. Like, I mean, Jerami Grant's big, Shaedon Sharp's big, he's 6'6". Um, we'll get to our second round pick, Jabari Walker. We'll talk about him later, but he's big. Like, we are not going after any guards. Like, the smallest guy we've acquired in the last whatever months is 6'6". So it just shows how we're really trying to prioritize defense. But I'm really excited for Shaedon Sharp to play on our team,
Yeah, you look
and
at
he could start. So
facts. You look at a team like the Celtics, and I think Joe Cronin is kind of going a similar way to their whole team is a bunch of like rangy, athletic people. Tatum, even
all
smart
two-way players, just
guard. Jalen Brown is a two-way player. And you mentioned that since Joe Cronin has become the GM, he hasn't traded for a small guard. I mean, Eric Bledsoe, we can say, I guess he traded for, but that was just a throw-in.
yeah,
Like, we don't
exactly.
actually want him. But Shane Sharp, he's one of the youngest players in the draft. So, I mean, he's got a ton of potential. Like, this guy was the number one overall recruit in his high school class. He was higher than Chet Holmgren in high
Yep.
school. He just didn't play in college. He lost his stock. And now everyone thinks he's not going to do anything. I do want to read a couple quotes from him. Not that like they really are important. Um, well, one is kind of important. If I can just find it real quick. Shane Sharp said, he said, I'm excited to get to Portland. Can't wait to get started. You know, everyone says that when they get drafted. But he said, I feel like I bring a dog mentality. I love to compete. I love to win. I get a lot of defensive stops, which is
We
just
love
like
that word. We love
heaven to
that
me.
word.
It's like, when is the last time we traded for someone and drafted for someone that prides themselves on defense? And that's not even going to Shane Sharp, who possibly is one of the more talented offensive players in this draft. So I love the pick.
I hope we don't become a great defensive, or I hope we don't become a good defensive team and then just suck in offense. Just a random thing. Anyway, were you surprised to see Orlando take Paulo over Jabari Smith? I feel like that was the
Yeah,
highlight of the
that was
draft,
like of like the first 10 picks, all of them went exactly how I expected them to go pretty much, except
except for
that.
that one. Yeah.
That did kind of throw me off. But everyone is saying like Shaden Sharp is he can play shooting guard. The Blazers aren't playing him at shooting guard A. And then B, he has a 6'11 wingspan. Like this man is long.
Wow.
He's and Jeremy Grant, he's like a 7'4 wingspan. Jeremy Grant
Jeez.
is like a freaking pterodactyl. Like
It's crazy. I mean,
so long.
for those of you who don't know, average wingspan. Typically, humans correlate exactly to your height, but we're talking 5 inches plus on all these guys on wingspan. That is crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, pterodactyls out there. But yeah, I want to talk about our second pick.
Yeah, sure.
Not Jabari Smith, unfortunately, but who needs Jabari Smith? You got Jabari Walker.
We got Jabari. We got the
We got
guy.
Jabari. It's just Walker, not Smith. But
No, but in all seriousness, this guy, like on a lot of people's boards, was like, if you can get him in the second round, he could be a really solid player. He's 6'9" forward, so again, another tall, lengthy guy.
another tall,
He
lengthy guy.
averaged
Yep.
14 and a half points, 9 rebounds his last year in college. He shot a career 39% from three, so he is a 3 and D. Now, his three-point percentage did go down this past year, but his amount of shots went up too, so that's probably why. But to get him in the second round, I personally, it's a better second round pick than CJ LB, I'll say.
Yeah, I'm
So
happy for that. Got a little steal on that one.
I
No
will say,
shade to CJLB though.
yeah, no,
He's doing his best.
of course we love all Blazer players except that
Yep.
like that one time we made that video about Nurk. That was more just like an impulse video. Do you remember that?
Yeah, we kind of were desperate for a video, just trying to get any views we
But
can.
I
We
actually
love
did
Nurk.
see Jabari Walker play in person, which is kind of funny because he's like a second round pick. But obviously, I went to the Pac-12 tournament
Yep.
and I saw Ben Mathurin play. I saw Jabari Walker play, and in the game I saw him play, it was against Oregon. Like the man hit like 6 threes.
Yeah, it's crazy
I was
watching.
mad because I wanted Oregon to win, but I mean, he showed out when I watched him play. So
It's crazy watching old players or like players in high school, and then they play in the NBA, and you're like, oh wow, I watched that guy. Like remember we watched Ben Simmons that one time like 7 years
we
ago.
watched Ben
Mark,
Simmons and we watched Jalen Brown.
Jaylen Brown. They were in the finals, and this year we didn't even know. It's like I wish I enjoyed it more, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Jaylen
And
Brown
then
against
Peyton
Peyton.
Pritchard, I watched his high school games. He went to my high school. Fun fact. It's just crazy. And also, all these players are in our grade, kind of, because we're like 19 or 18
I'm
years
like,
old.
we're around Shane Sharp's age. If
Oh
not,
yeah,
I gotta look at his age, but I do want to say like Peyton Pritchard and Jaylen Brown went against each other in that tournament.
Les Schwab
And
2014,
Peyton
something like
Pritchard's
that.
team beat Jaylen Brown, and Peyton Pritchard played better than Jaylen Brown, and now Jaylen Brown is like an NBA All-Star, and Peyton Pritchard's just a bench guy. It's crazy how that works.
Yeah, crazy. Another interesting thing. Blazers possibly interested in trying to push it to acquire Matisse Thybulle.
Hey, quick thing: Shane Sharp just turned 19, like
Wow.
last month.
So like if we were in the NBA, we would probably be the youngest, but like next year, that's not the case.
I
Like
think he might end up being the youngest player in the NBA this year. But yeah, you mentioned Matisse Thybulle.
yes, I mean, first of all, just instant reaction, just defense, amazing defender. Second all team, right? Second team all defense.
Something like
Six,
that.
and he's a 6'5" guard with another just pterodactyl, like you said, third time. I love that reference. 6'5", but 6'11" wingspan. I mean, come on.
No, I was intrigued by those rumors. It was something like the Sixers were interested in going after Eric Gordon from the Rockets, and they were willing to give up Matisse Thybulle, and they needed a third team. And the Blazers were like, I don't want to be the third team in that trade because I want Matisse Thybulle too. So I think those are real rumors. I think that's a player you could see us trading for in a couple days, maybe.
Could you see him playing the three, or is
I don't
that too
know
small?
what.
Could you see him playing the three, or is that too small if you have?
Um, I think he could be in a bench lineup where you have him or Hart like rotating at the three because they're both bigger guards. Um, but then again, like
That makes sense.
we do pick up Thibault. Who are we trading? Because I don't know I don't know his salary. I don't know any of that. But like we'll have to obviously trade somebody. So
Yep.
I just don't know who that could be.
Yep.
So the Thibault rumors I liked. As long as again we just don't overpay.
Yep. These pieces got to work if we want to make a run for the championship. And obviously, just the first thing that has to work, which like there's no guarantee, but like this part's scary, and then it's that Dame plays like an MVP. Because I mean, I feel like every Trail Blazer fan is kind of scared right now because yes, Dame got injured, but let's be honest, he played a lot of games and he shot bad a lot. So we were all hoping that
Oh no,
that
like
was
I fully expect him to be back to his level that he was like in the bubble. Like
yeah,
maybe not like 37 points a game, but like that impactful because again, he played that whole year. He played the year we played the Nuggets in the first round. He played that year.
yep,
So like yeah, being fully healthy, like that's a huge plus for Dan.
yeah.
I
This summer, yeah, go ahead.
I want to say, I think last night kind of was like the first realization that it's going to be really hard to win a championship with Dame. Like with Dame as the best player. Like obviously we knew that, but like we want to go one direction, but we also want to go the other direction. I think the smartest thing for this team is do what we've done, is pick up Jerami Grant, who gives a little win now, but is also kind of young, and then pick up like a guy that has superstar potential in Shaden Sharp. You get both of those guys.
Yep.
We obviously didn't trade the pick. There were trades on the table, we hear, that the Blazers were like, we want to go this way. It's going to be so hard to like unless Shaden Sharp is elite from day one, which is just hard to believe. Like, I think Dame is satisfied at this point in his career with doing also what's best for the team. Because
Yeah, I mean, honestly, our future, I'm not gonna say it's like as bright as, Houston or OKC or even Detroit, but
it's
like it's
bright. It's
not bad. It's not bad. Like we got Simons, what a blessing. Are you kidding me? Like I'm just saying, like if Dame were to, I guess, decline from now and we, get blown out in the playoffs the last 2 years, like in 5 years we could still be contenders. Like I'm not too worried, I guess, if that makes sense.
oh no,
But
I am like for as long as I've been a fan, we really haven't had like a true young core ever. Now, obviously, we were competing. I say we've been competing all these years, but like there's been maybe 2 years where I'm like, I think this team could actually make a run to the finals. And that was the year we actually made it run to the Western Conference Finals. And it was the year we lost to the Pelicans. The 2 years we were the 3 seed. But like Dame's been an 8 seed like 3 times in his career. He's been a 6 seed another 2 times. Like we
Yep.
act like we've been competing this whole time, but in reality, we've just been a mediocre team. So actually having a young core now,
It's huge. And
it's
you never know what's going to happen this summer because there could be just one big move that will just completely turn the tables and our perspective on the team next year. But thank you, Blazers organization, once again for making it an exciting, making myself excited for the next season. Because a lot of NBA fans don't get to experience that. Although I haven't experienced a ring, we've been relevant, which is good. But that's all I wanted to say about that.
I do want to go in quickly, just like kind of not necessarily expectations for the rest of the offseason, but like just what we hear and what we know to this point. I want to talk about Joe Cronin's press conference. So when it comes to the draft process, he said, I had just worked the phone so diligently from post combine on. There were tons of trade discussions, pick swap ideas, pick plus a player ideas. As the process went on, we became more and more enamored with pick 7. So obviously, we fielded calls.
Yeah.
And then he also said, when he was asked what the next steps are for the Blazers, he said, keep on the path. We're trying to be really aggressive. We know we're not good enough. We want to try to keep getting better. So we're trying to address these needs. The draft is a big trade day, but it's not the end all be all. So again, that means like obviously the draft is one of the best days to make your trades, blah, blah, blah. But there's more days. I do want to say I think Shane Sharp is firmly going to be with the Blazers. I mean, look at this picture. He has a locker now. Like obviously he has a locker because he's on the team, but like
Yeah.
the way Cronin was talking about him in his press conference, it seemed like we're going to keep him.
Yep. That's good. What do you think is going to happen for the rest of the offseason? I mean, I know that's a hard thing to say, but like, what are the odds? What are the odds we make a big trade, like an Aiton type player, or maybe not that high, but something like that? Like, what do you think?
I
Because
think
I think there's like, I'd say it's about 50-50 for me. That's the chance of us getting like a player like Aiton or making a big move like that in free agency.
I think at this point, the only way you bring in a big time free agent is sadly if you let go of Nurk and then maybe even like this is never going to happen, but let go of Simons because currently we have $44 million in cap space. I was looking at this earlier, and that is without factoring in Nurk or Ant. You assume Ant's going to get around 20 million, so
Yeah.
then you assume Nurk's probably going to get around 12 to 15. So instantly, right there, let's just say we've got 35 million to 40 million locked up. That only gives $5 to $10 million of true spending room, which is not a lot. We obviously have this thing. I don't know what it's called. I think it's the MLE. We have the MLE, which we can guarantee someone like $10 million. So that's where we could get an interesting player in free agency. But I think free agency is going to be a little more underwhelming than we anticipate. I think the biggest name the Blazers could be trading, though, is I think the Aiton rumor. I think the possibility of Aiton is basically dead now. I think we would have needed to trade like Shane Sharp for that, which I guess we technically still can. But I think
Yeah.
the biggest name the Blazers could trade is Nasir Little. I think that's our most valuable asset that we may have, like, we
Yeah.
may be okay with trading. I think Ant, I think Sharp, and I think Dame at this point are untouchable.
Yeah. After this week, I mean, we have a pretty good idea of what the starting five is going to look like. I mean, sure, anything can happen, but let's just break this down. So we got Damian Lillard, one of the best offensive players in the NBA. Defense, we'll say, neutral. We have Anthony Simons, an amazing offensive player. Defense, probably a little bit on the negative end, but this is where the defense turns up. We got Sharp, who, I mean, like I said, it's early, and we haven't seen him play an NBA game yet. But with the mentality that he brings, you got to think he's going to bring some defense and maybe neutral offense. Jerami Grant is obviously going to bring defense. Nurk's going to bring defense. So You just got to hope that this team plays well together. Because, like, honestly, our starting five last year when we lost, or 2 years ago when we lost the Nuggets, we were a good defensive team from the starting unit, but
Facts.
our bench was where we had the problems with the, Anis Cantor, Carmelo Anthony, Anthony
I
Simons trio.
remember like going and seeing the stats the post Norman Powell trade, and we had
Yeah,
like a top five defensive rating among the starting five. But when you took out that starting five and put
it
in
was just
substitution, it plummeted.
vomit worthy. I mean, I just don't want to make the same mistake again. Like, yes, we can have a good starting five when it comes to defense, but you just got to bring that off the bench. And I'm confident if we have like Hart and Little off the bench playing some defense, I'm gonna be happy with that. And some backup center. I don't know. It's hard to predict, but you just don't want to make the same mistake again, like you did in 2021.
Like I think the best example is you look at the finals. The team that had more depth won. Like the Warriors had Gary Payton coming off the bench to play good defense. At some points, Looney was coming off the bench, but like Otto Porter played good defense. You even had like Kuminga every once in a while coming on to play good defense. Compared to the Celtics, like Peyton Pritchard is not the best defensive player, and Derek White is not the best defensive player. They were starter heavy, and
Yep.
obviously, like their starters ran out of gas at the end. I'm not saying that the Blazers are going to be making the finals and need to like save their energy, but like to have, like you said, Hart coming off the bench at the moment, Little coming off the bench, Justice Winslow coming off the bench. Those are three defensive-minded players. So another guy that I've seen is now like really rumored to come to the Blazers is Mo Bamba
Mo
from
Bamba.
Orlando. 7'1", 7'1" or something, center to be the backup center. He's young. And
Where's he been?
where's he been?
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, Mo
Um,
Bamba.
uh,
Um,
no, but
yeah, he'd be good. I
I, I
think.
I would I think that's one that we would do with like the MLE, which is the $10 million something. He would be a good player to bring on the bench to play behind Nurk because he can shoot the three. And I think he's definitely out of Orlando because he was number 5 last year, and the Magic already announced that Paolo is going to be number 5. So
Yeah,
could that mean he's out the door? I don't know.
lots of things can happen, but just gotta hope we're. Where do you expect? Okay, it's always defense. Defense has been the top word for Blazers fans the last 3 years. Like, I know it's obviously early, but for some expectations, maybe where do you expect us defensive ranking? I guess. Do you put us in the top half?
Okay. Before I do this, I don't want to give out an icy take here because we're
Okay.
kind of notorious for that. We get a little too
Yes.
optimistic. But I think I've learned to, weather my expectations. I think that a successful defensive year is an top 15 defense
For
because
sure.
that's a huge step from last year. And not only are we getting better defensive players, but now Chauncey Billups has the defensive players to implement his scheme because he talked about when he first became coach, he wants to be known as a defensive coach, which is just amazing to hear because nothing against Terry Stotts, but he was definitely more focused on the offensive side, which had
Yeah.
its pluses here and there. But I think our defense can be really solid next year with Nurk and Grant manning the paint. That's
Yeah. Assuming injuries don't happen.
I just my big question is Shane Sharp going to start right when he comes in? I don't think he will, but
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
tough.
necessarily want Little to start because like if we could bring in a solid wing player, then our bench, like I would be really excited for our team next year because that would be coming off the bench. You got Hart, Little, and Sharp. That is three
That would be
athletic
beautiful.
beasts coming off the
That
bench.
are good on offense, good on defense. Unlike Melo, but we got to praise Melo. He has good Blazer moments. But thanks for taking them.
I want to
Vetman
say another
Melo,
thing,
but
like to everyone that is skeptical of the Sharp thing, like this is who Dame wanted. You act like
yes,
Dame doesn't have a say in every single decision. He's not making every single decision, but he has a say in it. And Joe Cronin's smart enough to not make a decision that goes against Dame, probably. Um,
for sure.
Joe even said in his press conference about Dame, he said he's so curious. He has a pretty good front office lens. He gets the other side of it. It's pretty cool to be able to talk to him about roster building and get into cap stuff. So, and that just goes on to say, like the vibes in the organization I've just read over the past couple of days are so much better now that Neil Olshey's gone. Like there's nice people running the organization.
He was the virus.
Hated Neil.
Yep, he was the virus, and I don't feel like a lot
He
of people
was.
liked him.
We never.
Uh,
I really said I love Neil Olshey when we made the Robert Kelly.
yeah, I saw a video earlier for those viewers that don't know. So this is
I
early in the channel. So this is like 2020. So I don't know. Anyway, we traded 2 first-round picks for Robert Covington. This guy makes his vid for this podcast channel. First words that come out of his mouth is, Neil Olshey, I love you. Thank you for making this trade. I absolutely love you, Neil. Something like that. I mean, it's going to be optimistic when you get trades. But anyway, yeah, he was trash. He's out. So we're good.
All right,
And all eyes are on the future.
we're gonna play. It's not necessarily a game, but it's just like react to that comment. I'm just gonna go through our comments on our reaction to Shaden Sharp being drafted. I just want to see what people say.
All right.
We got one guy that says Sharp is the most talented guy in the draft, in my opinion. My only concern is his work ethic or compromise to the franchise. Not really sure what compromise to the franchise means, but I guess that's fair opinion.
Yeah, I guess so. He is very talented and obviously first in high school, whatever you said about that. But yeah, I don't, because I think it's hard to say.
It's
I don't
hard to
really know
There's
college.
You don't
I don't
know.
really know college players that well enough to have a true opinion.
Mhm.
So
Another person said
that's all I got for that.
drafting Sharp and with Grant, Dame, Little, Nurk, and the rest, things are looking a lot better for next season. I can't wait to see what else we do. We are off to a good start. I think that's a pretty good way to summarize it because like this
Yep.
is a good start to the offseason. We haven't
This
made
is
it
definitely what you want.
suck.
And keeping that 7th pick after getting Jerami Grant is so huge, so huge.
I think that's really all we got for our reaction to the draft and the big Jerami Grant trade. Free agency starts in like 6 days or something. So
Yep.
I don't know what our podcast schedule for that will be. Maybe we'll make a podcast like each day, depending on how much moves the Blazers make, or we might just do a full on. I think what we'll do is we'll do reactions to each signing and then a full like review after free agency is over. But
Yeah, probably.
I don't expect the Blazers, or I fully expect the Blazers to still be super active in the trade market. So I
Yep,
think
it would be
we'll
disappointing
go down.
if nothing happened. It'd be disappointing if nothing happened until the start of the season. So although it was a good week, let's keep that gas pedal down and keep making moves because that is what we need.
All right, we'll see you guys in the next podcast episode. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and just help us grow this channel. And if you're listening on Spotify, make sure to give it 5 stars. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.